Hello everyone! Welcome to this beginner-friendly project on hosting a static website on S3. This is Natasha from the Nextwork team, and in this project, we don't assume any experience. Let's get started with AWS, let's get hands-on, and let's host your very own website in just 45 minutes. Can we do it? I believe so. Let's get started, and if you're watching this live today, please come say hi in the chat. I love to say hi back. This project today is easy peasy. We're gonna do this in 45 minutes and it's absolutely free. It costs $0 to do this project. All you need is an AWS account. How good is that? You can create one right here. We have the link to that in the project guide. Okay, and our key service for today, you might guess, it's S3. All right, so what is this project about? You can use Amazon S3 to store and retrieve, honestly, any amount of data at any time from anywhere on the web. If you're new to this concept, if you're new to Amazon S3, think of it as kind of like this storage folder that's in the cloud. You might have used very similar services before. For example, you might have used Google Drive in the past where you stored some things in the cloud. Now S3 is very similar. It does a very similar thing. The cool thing about S3 is that it can really store just about any file type possible. And also compared to something like Google Drive, if you know how to use S3, you're gonna know how to save a lot of money because using S3 honestly is a lot cheaper than paying for like Google Drive storage, for example, but you didn't hear that from me. So today we're gonna be using S3 to store some pictures and files needed in your very own website. So you've got some website files, you're gonna store that into S3, and then you're gonna host a static website using the files you stored inside so that end users can see this website that you set up. Yeah, I think that's also the crazy part about S3 compared to something like Google Drive, where you can actually host static websites using S3. Now, what is that gonna look like? It's gonna look like this by the end of today's project. You're gonna have this website that you're gonna host live from an S3 bucket. It's gonna be wild, it's gonna be amazing. I hope you enjoy this project. Okay, so if you're thinking, wait, how am I gonna host a website by using files? Like, how does that connect? Here's a little behind the scenes tip. Websites are run by pictures and files. You can think of a website as kind of like this put together file that was illustrated with images that you also put inside your folder. So by that logic, once we throw in a website file called an HTML file inside, and then we throw in some images that's gonna illustrate our website, you're gonna end up with a very cool end result like this. And hosting a website itself requires some permission settings that makes your bucket's objects publicly accessible, and we're gonna go into that in detail. But for now, just know that it's totally possible. So this project is project 1 of our AWS Beginners Challenge. Welcome to everyone that's taking on that first day of their challenge. You're gonna get started with AWS and take on a series of hands-on projects that helps you get started with AWS, that helps you kickstart a portfolio too. So 0 experience required. It's designed for absolute beginners, just getting started with cloud, and yeah, I'm excited for you. Welcome to project 1. And yeah, we're gonna go use that step-by-step guidance version today for today's project. You can definitely tackle some guidance or on your own when you're ready. I'm pretty, I think these 2 options are pretty cool. You know, once you've done this project once or twice, try tackle it with less and less guidance, and that really challenges you to think in terms of like, oh, what can I do? You know, how can I do this on my own? For now though, let's stick with step-by-step guidance. So we're going to go through this project step-by-step together. Nice. Okay, so before we start, it's always good to understand exactly what we're here to do today. So what are we here to do today? In this project, we will demonstrate how to use S3 to host a static website. We're doing this project to learn about AWS and cloud services and how they can be used to store objects in the cloud and even host websites. How does that work? You know, we can come in with a lot of questions, and hopefully by the end of this project, we come out with a lot of like, oh, and a lot of answers, and a lot of experience. Ooh, just gonna quickly update this typo. We're doing this project to learn about AWS and cloud services. Nice work. So if you're up for a bit of a challenge, let's quiz ourselves on the key concepts up ahead in this project. You're not expected to know everything for sure. We're only just starting with this project. This quiz is all about just challenging yourself and getting a bit of a tasting menu of all of the little concepts that you're gonna see in this project. So shall we get started? Let's take the quiz. All right. Ooh, interesting. When configuring an S3 bucket for static website hosting, what is the typical name for the index document? Is it A, index.html? Is it B, error.html? Is it C, main.html? Or D, any type of file? So now this is something that we're gonna see probably around step 3 of this project today. So if you're new to configuring an S3 bucket, what does that mean? Static website hosting, what does that mean? Index document, what does that mean? These are some very, very, very normal questions to have. We don't expect any experience. But it's for the challenges, like we've got Gangada in the chat here and H that are ready to answer these questions, that we're gonna pick A, index.html. All right, that's correct. Congratulations. The index document is typically named index.html, and this basically means what is the name of the file that typically determines what goes into your website. That's basically what this question was asking. So the name of the file, the default name, is usually called index.html, and we're going to create one very, very soon. That file is going to determine the contents that go into the website. Very cool. What is the primary function of HTML? Now, HTML, it stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and here we've got option A. What do you use it for? Is it A, configuring the network settings of your website? Do you use HTML to structure the content of a web page? Or do you use HTML to manage a database? Do you use HTML to handle some server-side logic? Ooh, we got some interesting words here. Things like server-side logic might be a little bit of an intense term if it's your first time seeing it. But server-side logic is basically, how do you process what happens when a user clicks on a button? Like, what is the code that takes them to what the button is supposed to do? Is it supposed to take you to a new page? Is it supposed to submit a form? Is it supposed to make like a little thing dance? The server-side logic is the thing that processes the actions that you do on your website. But as our very, very smart students are saying in the chat, correct. B is the answer for us today. HTML is used to structure the content of a web page. We're about to create index.html, and HTML is the language basically that you use across all kinds of files that determines what goes inside like a web page, what goes inside a static web page. Now, what is the primary purpose of access control lists? The primary purpose of access control lists, ACLs, in Amazon S3. Again, this is a bit of a jargony almost kind of question term. ACLs, do they A, encrypt data stored in the bucket? B, monitor bucket usage and costs? C, control access to the bucket and its objects? Or D, enable versioning of objects in the bucket? Oh dear, what do you think access control lists mean? You're not supposed to know what it means straight away. It's something that we're gonna see probably around step 4 of this project. But what do you think it does if we were to look at it straight up? What do you think access control lists do? Is it a bit of a trickier question? I think so, I would say. So access control, if you want to put these two words together, it means you're controlling who gets access to what. And I would say C is the closest answer to that. Let's see. Yeah, so access control list, which we're going to use in a second, they define who gets access to what in your bucket. It's kind of like how when you upload files into Google Drive, it doesn't automatically give everyone in the world access to your objects. That's going to be pretty scary. You actually have ways to say, I'm going to share with, this person, this person, this person, or anyone with the link can view, they can comment, can they edit your object? So it's very, very similar to the purpose of access control list. It's all about managing who can do what. What is a key requirement for naming an Amazon S3 bucket? Oh my goodness, this is a good one. It's kind of like saying, what is a key requirement for naming your Google Drive folder? Is there one? Google Drive folders are pretty chill, eh? Like you don't really have specific requirements for what you can and cannot name your folder, but there is one thing that's important about an Amazon S3 bucket. Is it A, there's no restrictions? Is it B, does it have to be unique to a specific AWS region? C, unique to a single AWS account, so basically every bucket in your account must have a unique name? Or does it need to be globally unique across all AWS accounts in the world? Does every single bucket in the entire world need to have their own name? What do you think about this one? Is it gonna be... Oh, we got some answers in the chat. It's D, globally unique. Correct. Yeah, so S3 bucket names must be globally unique across all AWS accounts to make sure that each bucket can be uniquely identified. What this basically means is imagine if every single Google Drive folder you've ever had to create needs to have a completely unique name that no one else in the world has for their Google Drive folder. You're gonna have to become like a name genius because your names need to always be unique. Now, what is the bucket website endpoint in the context of hosting a static website on S3? It's basically saying, what does this do? A bucket website endpoint. Let's break this down. We've got a bucket, which to us is like a storage folder, a website. A website is like a web page, like facebook.com, nextweek.org. And we've got endpoint. Endpoint usually means like, how are you going to get access to this? So how are you going to get access to the website that's stored inside your bucket? So that's the bucket website endpoint in the context of hosting a static website. Is it a URL to the AWS Management Console? And if you're new to this term, the Management Console is basically this web app that you have for accessing and managing what you're doing with your AWS resources. Or is a bucket website endpoint a URL that enables a URL provided by S3 after you enable static website hosting? C, the bucket's ARN, which is the bucket's ID, or is it D, the local file path on your computer? The local file path being where are the website files inside your computer, not in S3. What is the bucket website endpoint? Yeah, correct. So it's B, a URL provided by S3, because the bucket website endpoint, again, it means how are people going to get access to the website that you store in your bucket? And the answer is, there's a URL that S3 gives you that you can share with people, so that when the people that get access to that URL, when they click on that URL, they're going to see the website that you're hosting. So B is the correct answer there. Oh my goodness, I am really in a room full of geniuses, aren't we? We've mastered it. But I also think if this is your first time doing the quiz, I highly recommend getting things wrong. I highly recommend just playing around with the feel of the quiz, so you can see, okay, what happens when you get something wrong? What happens if you're not completely sure of an answer? Can you be more sure by the end of the project? So don't be too nervous if you get anything wrong. You're also going to get a quiz at the end of the project to recap what we've learned today. Okay, but let's get started with AWS, shall we? That was a lot of fun. It was very, very nice to always do a quiz to warm up together, to the concepts of this project. And now let's get hands-on. We're going to create a bucket in Amazon S3 to start. So let's start by opening up this iconic AWS service. It's called Amazon S3. And you can think of it as a place where you create folders to store things inside. S3 is a foundational service in the world of AWS, so I'm really glad that you're going to get to know it as your first project, with AWS. Let's type in Amazon S3 like this, okay? And under the services area, you're going to see that there's an option for S3. So we're going to click into that in a second. But before we do that, just know that in this step, we're going to open up S3 for the first time, what we're about to do with that one click. And then we're also going to create a storage space for your website files. Okay, so we're going to be doing this, opening S3, and then we're also going to create that storage space for our website files. In this step, we will open up S3 and then create a storage space inside to start storing website files. Great. So let's, and if you haven't already, here's the link to log into your AWS console. It's in the project guide here. And in the AWS Management Console, we typed in and searched for S3. And now you can click into it as well. So you can click into S3 like this. And this opens up S3 in front of you as this portal that lets you create these folders and start storing your objects. Now, S3, I know, looks a little intimidating. It's like, whoa, there's so many tabs on the side. There's so many tabs here. There's so many buttons here. What's going on? Just know that to start with, S3 is just about storing objects, and you have all of these advanced settings for people who have advanced needs. But, lucky for us, we got a simple request here today. We're just gonna focus on general purpose buckets, which means buckets that aren't specially configured in any way, so that we can just close this. One less thing to look at. Okay, close that. Don't think about that again. We're just gonna focus on what we have in front of us. Now, before we keep on going with creating our bucket, I thought I'd quickly mention that choosing a region is pretty important in this project. So you see how you've got your login, your username. There's also something called a region next to that. You will want to open that and just make sure you're picking the region that's closest to you. I'm going to pick the Oregon region, and I'm going to keep on going with using Oregon for the rest of this project. But there's probably a region that's closer to you, Are you based close to Mumbai, Osaka, Seoul, Singapore, Sydney, Tokyo? Whoa, some cool regions here, aren't there? And there's so many regions in Canada and Europe as well. And many more. There's even some that aren't even enabled for my account yet. But there are many, many regions in the world of AWS. Pick the one that's closest to you, because that is just best practice for setting up things that you're doing quickly for a project. Setting up things close to you is ideal because eventually your objects are going to be stored in that region. You want to be as close as possible to the thing that you're storing so that it reduces latency, it reduces the time for you to retrieve that item, and usually it also reduces cost. We don't need to think about cost for this project because it's free, but let's build that best practice habit now so that in the future, you're always instinctively going for the region that's closest to you. So I'm going to go for Oregon, and this is where we're ready to start creating our bucket. So let's click on Create Bucket. Hey, is this your first bucket ever? Is it your first bucket ever? Oh my gosh, if it is, I'm so excited for you. Congratulations. Okay, so let's create the bucket now. And you're in this page for creating a bucket. I know. When you're creating a folder in Google Drive, you just click create new folder, type in a folder name, click enter, and you can start loading files in. But the process for creating a bucket in S3 is a little bit different. There are a few more steps in between because S3 really wants to make sure that you have the correct permission settings, that you're setting up your bucket in the best way possible for the thing that you want to do. And what's the thing that we want to do today? We want to actually host a static website today. So we're going to set up our bucket in that to be optimal for that. Okay, so first things first, let's put in a bucket name. So here, enter your name in this cool little variable here. Ooh, enter your name. So I'm just gonna make Nextwork as my name. Oh. Okay, click on that cool little tick box after you're done. that says network here as a variable. And then you can copy this, okay, as your bucket name and put that into your bucket name field. Cool, so we've got our bucket name now set up. This should be replaced with your name. And it's very important to have your bucket name be completely unique. As you might have noticed before, in our quiz, no other AWS account in the entire world can use your bucket name. Your bucket name needs to be completely unique. And I think this one's gonna be unique enough. I'm gonna bet that no one else has this bucket name. But if you create this bucket before me, I might just get blocked. So heads up, everyone. If you create this bucket with this name, I'm gonna run into a fail in a second. Okay, so we've got the bucket name set up. And now we're just gonna answer these questions and keep on going with the project. All right, the region we picked for our S3 bucket was Oregon, because it's the region that's closest to us. It's best practice to pick the region closest to you because it lowers time to retrieve your things, aka latency. That term is called latency. Like, how long did it take for you to retrieve your own things? Or how long did it take for data to go from one point to another? So picking the region closest to you lowers latency and costs, although this is not important for this project. Haha. Just best practice. Okay, and next question. What does it mean that S3 buckets have to be globally unique? S3 bucket names are globally unique. This means no two buckets in the entire world can have the same name. And I'll be clear, no two Amazon S3 buckets in the entire world can have the same name. They have to be completely unique, regardless of the region or the account ID. And they're unique just like you. They have to be completely unique, just like how you're completely unique, all right? So let's click done for that one. And now we're up to the next setting that we're gonna set up for our bucket. Next up is object ownership. Let's choose ACLs enabled, like this. And ACLs are basically a set of rules that decides who can get access to a resource. In this situation, we're using ACLs to control who can access and do things with the objects that you upload into your bucket. ACLs, as you're gonna see in the future, they used to be the hot thing in terms of managing access to things inside your bucket. But as you might notice, we recommend disabling ACLs unless you need to control access for each object individually or to have the object writer own the data they upload. Okay, I know sometimes it gets a little like, whoa, what is this yellow pop-up saying? I know it's a little bit scary. You're not doing anything illegal, don't worry. But it's just telling you that, by the way, ACLs aren't the only way to control access anymore. They used to be, but they're not the only way to control access anymore. It's in fact simpler to use another tool called bucket policies to manage access. We're gonna ignore this warning today because ACLs at the end of the day is a very great concept to just learn about in terms of this is how you can manage access. And also, you can compare that with bucket policies in today's secret mission at the end of the project. Now, bucket policies makes it really easy to control access for an entire bucket. You know, bucket policies is the alternate way that this pop-up is trying to tell you about. Bucket policies are great if you're like, oh, the entire bucket, this is like my overarching umbrella permission setting. But where ACLs really shine is that you can control access for each object individually. In this bucket with 20 objects, I only want to give access to 3 of them. Now, this is where ACLs are a lot more convenient. Or imagine in a situation where it's like in this bucket with like 3,000 objects, I only want to make public like 2 of them. And that's when you want just ACLs to really make that small level of like permission change to be done. So I hope that's clear. You've got usually two options for making things public or controlling permissions. They're called ACLs, and they're also called bucket policies. Bucket policies are the hot thing now. People love using bucket policies, but ACLs still have their own use case. And that's when you want to actually manage access for a single bucket or just manage access individually. Still, we're going to see bucket policies by the end of this project in our secret mission, so you can really compare the two. Aww, H says, I have to go. Oh, we're gonna miss you, H. Okay, please come back soon. I hope you enjoyed the live when you're back. And yeah, we will see you next time. Bye. Take care. All right, so an ACL is, an ACL, aka an access control list, is a way to configure permission settings inside a bucket. We enabled ACLs so that we can control access to our website files later. ACLs, I would say there was a pop-up mentioning that AWS recommends disabling ACLs. And we'll compare, but we'll keep it enabled to learn how ACLs work and compare it with bucket policies later. Okay, so now that that's done, we're gonna keep a default setting for the next one. Object ownership says bucket owner preferred. And that basically means if new objects fit into this bucket specify the bucket owner full control canned ACL, they are owned by the bucket owner. Otherwise, they're owned by the object writer. Oh my gosh, this seems a little technical, doesn't it? So thankfully, we're just keeping the default setting. But what we're doing here is that when you add new things to your bucket, who's gonna own it? Is it going to be the person that uploads it, or is it gonna be the person that owns the bucket? So this is just like a small minute detail, but let's just keep bucket owner preferred here. And now for block public access settings, let's turn off block all public access. We're turning that off. Do you know why? Can you guess what block public access settings mean? So this setting here is basically saying, do you want this invisible layer around your bucket that like fends off and like fights off any person or any traffic that's trying to access your bucket over the public internet? Do you want this invisible layer? So turning the setting on, block all public access, is saying, yes, I do want this invisible barrier, this invisible layer that's protecting my bucket. But we're turning this off. We're like saying, no, turn off the barrier. I don't want the barrier. Let public access come into my bucket. So AWS is gonna be like, what? Are you sure? That invisible barrier is very, very helpful for protecting your bucket from access that you don't want. Are you sure you want to take off this barrier? And we're going to be like, AWS, we know what we're doing here. We're doing a next week project. I acknowledge that the current settings might result in this bucket and the objects within becoming public. Let's take this to tell AWS that we really know what we're doing here. But we're turning off this barrier. How does that make you feel? Are you nervous that we're turning off a little barrier? So nothing to worry about, team. If you're thinking, oh my God, does this mean people can hack my website? Like, what does this mean? Just know that we really need to turn off this barrier, because that's how people are going to get access to your website in the first place. So you've got this, if that barrier was on, anyone that wants to see your website, they're going to get like fought off as well. We don't really want that. So we're going to turn that barrier off. And now we've got bucket versioning. You can choose enable, and that's something that you can play around with later. But bucket versioning is a lot of fun to see the different versions of your objects. For example, when you decide to update your website file, you can upload an updated version of that file. And what that helps you with is now you can see both versions, the old version before the update and the new version after the update. Bucket versioning is great for just keeping track of all the different versions that you might have of the same things. All right, so let's go ahead and click Create Bucket now. So all of this we can keep as default. Default encryption is also another security setting, and by default, Amazon S3 automatically encrypts the objects that are inside, which means it automatically makes sure that anyone that wants to get unauthorized access to the objects inside are not going to be able to actually view your objects or see it. And this is helpful for people that want to upload new objects or delete objects from your bucket. This one doesn't prevent people from not seeing your website. Okay, let's create the bucket straight away. Click Create Bucket. And yeah, the Mad Monk, crazy name, by the way, and welcome, says no one from outside can access it. That's correct. That's what happens when you block public access. So great shout there. Okay, so we've created our bucket. Congratulations. And your panel here should now show your bucket. In fact, I can do this, and you can see it. Our bucket is now born. Let's take a screenshot and put that in our documentation. So as we complete questions, in this project today, you're going to generate documentation that's going to wrap up the things that you've done and also the learnings that you've had. So let's answer these questions, and then it's going to help us pull together all our learnings in one PDF at the end. All right. How long did it take to create an S3 bucket? Creating an S3 bucket took us less than 5 minutes. We needed to learn a few new concepts like block public access and ACLs. But once that learning is done, we can create buckets in even shorter time in the future, which is pretty damn cool. Okay, very nice, team. All right, let's keep on going. Now that step one done, creating a bucket is honestly so much fun, and I do stand by my thought that once you understand these settings, you can honestly create a bucket in like 1 minute and 30 seconds. Click, click, click. Or even in the future, you can do these buckets without having to click. You can just type in your terminal, this is how I want my bucket to be created, and for that to happen too. But I'm not going to get too deep into that. We're going to go straight into the next step, which is to upload website content to your bucket. Phew! Congratulations. Nice work getting your S3 bucket created, and let's put some website files inside the bucket. Now in this step, we have our storage folder created now, but it's empty. Our folder has nothing inside. So it doesn't really know what website you want to store, what website you want to host, what are the images in that website. So we're going to get all of those files into the bucket now. That requires downloading some files first before we upload it back into your bucket. I'll show you how. Okay, in this step, we will set up an S3 bucket. Oh, I would say actually, we will upload the website files into our S3 bucket. This is important because no files equals no website. Our bucket is still empty. Let's get files inside so that we have a website to host. Okay, so in our bucket section, click into your bucket and download these files to your computer so we can add them into your bucket. To do this, you can right-click on a file, select Save Link As, and download the file into your Downloads folder. Again, right-click on a file, Save Link As, download the file into your Downloads folder. Excellent work, everyone. So I hope you got to do that. The link to both files are inside the project guide. If you don't have access to the project guide, you can find it in the description box of this YouTube video. Cool. Okay, so we've downloaded 2 files, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what are these 2 files? One is called index.html, and one is a folder of, image files that's going to go into illustrate your website. So HTML, like we actually touched on in the quiz, HTML is used to create and design web pages. It's your way of telling your website, hey, I want a paragraph here, I want an image here, I want a button here, I want a form here, I want a bullet point list there. You're kind of like scaffolding or you're structuring what's inside your website. So a lot of people think of HTML as the blueprint that shapes what you see when you visit a website. So the HTML of our console is going to say, hey, I want the logo here, I want an icon here, and I want to also have a search bar here. Like, let me just structure what's going to be in there. And then you have other files that will make up, okay, I want to make sure that once that icon is in there, that it turns blue when I hover over it. Another file determines that. I also want to make sure that when you click upload, that certain things like takes you to a different page. This stuff is usually happens in other files too. HTML has some of those capabilities, but in advanced like web apps, all of these capabilities, like what happens when you click on it, also get controlled by other files too. But at the very, very base layer, just know that HTML determines the layout, what are the elements inside this website. So now that we kind of know what files we've downloaded, let's find them in your downloads folder. So open up your downloads folder. It's right here. Looks a little like this. And you should have 2 files, index.html and this zip file. Click on that zip file and unzip it. So I'm going to unzip the file, and it's going to look like a folder now. Okay? Now, we're going to pause here for a second, and we're going to check, are you a Windows or a Linux user? Once you unzip it, what do you see when you open your folder? So I've just unzipped my file. I open it. What do I see? I see this. I see a bunch of images that are in here. I see a lot of different other kinds of files, some elements, graphics. Do you see that? If you're a Windows user, open up your file now, open up your folder. What do you see? Chances are this is not what you see. You might actually see something else. You might end up seeing this, okay? As a Windows user, you might end up seeing this. Your file in another folder and a Mac OS X kind of folder. Is this you? Double check this now. Click into this folder and see, oh, these are your website files. Here they are. If this is you, make sure that you do not upload this main folder. You're gonna wanna click into this folder and take out this folder and put that and upload that instead later on, okay? So you don't want that main folder. You only want this inside folder here. And I'm gonna demo this in terms of how you should upload that into your S3 bucket. Okay, so let's go back into S3 in the meantime. Let's select upload, because we're gonna now put our website files into the bucket. And once you click upload, select add files. Now we're going to select add files, and we've got our downloads folder here. We're going to select index.html. That's the website file. It determines what kind of elements we want inside our website. And then next, we're going to click on add folder, because all of our images are inside folders. So for me, I'm a Mac user. If I were to click into this folder, I can already see all the objects, don't I? So I can click upload right away, or I can click on this folder like this and click upload like this. You're gonna see this pop up that says, yo, do you wanna upload 44 files? Yes, I do wanna upload 44 files. Select upload here. Then if you are a Windows user, what you're gonna see is you're gonna click add folder, and in your downloads folder, you might be tempted to just click on this parent folder here. No. That's not what we're gonna do. You're gonna click into your parent folder, and you see how there's that Mac OS X folder and then the other folder? You wanna click this folder instead. Okay, click into the child folder and then upload the child folder instead. This is called the parent folder, where it has like subfolders again inside. Please don't do that, okay? So we're just gonna upload what's inside. And that's gonna save you from a lot of errors down the line, I promise you. Now, here we've got our files all uploaded now. So we can actually select upload like this in your console. And S3 is gonna get to work right away. It's gonna start uploading your files. So while we wait, let's talk about it. We uploaded 2 files to our S3 bucket. They were an index.html file. This determines Shy Sinister, hello, says hello from Arizona. Nice to meet you. So good to have you here. Yeah, thank you so much for the amazing blog that you've written about Nextwork. Really touched about that. All right, we uploaded 2 files to our S3 bucket. They were an index.html file. This determines the structure, i.e. what goes inside your website, and a folder of images and assets, i.e. this will fill in the website with images and things to look at. Okay, take a guess. How are the 2 files related? Why would you need both? Yeah, take a minute to think about that. You know, why couldn't we just upload 1 file and say that's my website file? Done deal. Why do we need so many files? What do you think? Okay, so both files are necessary for this project, as index.html determines the structure, but the structure alone does not illustrate the contents of the website, i.e. if index.html says insert image here, it might not have the actual image to display. You need to supply that image separately. That's why we have multiple files uploaded. The index.html file to direct what is inside the website page, but also a bunch of assets like images that the website is trying to display. And in fact, we're gonna see in a second just what happens if you only upload and you only display one file, the index.html file. It's not gonna look very pretty. Okay, so once you're done with uploading all of these files, you've got a great success here. I think you can click close at the top. Yeah, let's go here. Let's click close. And you can actually take a screenshot of your amazing work now that you have your index.html file and also the folder of assets. Again, for all Windows users especially, click into that folder of assets now, check. Do you have all of these objects inside? If you don't see this right away, it means you probably uploaded the wrong folder. You're supposed to upload the folder that has all these files. If you just see Mac OS X and also another folder name, that means you should have uploaded that child folder inside instead. I'm saying all of this again and again to help to help dodge a bullet for you, to help you dodge a bullet. Sorry, that was what I was trying to say. So that you don't run into an error later on. Okay, but let's take a screenshot of our objects panel now, because everything's uploaded. That's awesome. And let's select done, finish up that step. Let's keep on going to step 3. Whew, S3 bucket created, website files uploaded. Next up, we're gonna make our website available on the internet by setting up static website hosting. So this is the step where you've already got all the files ready. You're just waiting for people to see it. So let's get ready to configure your bucket for static website hosting, which means make it public, let everyone see my website. And then we're gonna test, did that work? Can people actually see your website now? This is gonna be fun. By the end of this project, by the end of this step, I'm gonna add a link to the chat that's gonna let you see my website too, once I've enabled static website hosting. So in this step, we will make our website available to the world. This is called static website hosting. And it's important because our website files will stay, I would say our website files will stay as just files and not turn into a website without this step, if we don't do this step. I kind of think about like your bucket as a cocoon, and then these files are like caterpillars. You got little caterpillars, we put them in a cocoon, and we're gonna turn into a butterfly, okay, by enabling static website hosting. So, all right. Now, website hosting is what makes your website public on the internet. Even if you have a perfect HTML file, no one can see what's in that file if it's just stored as a file. You're still in caterpillar mode right now. When you enable website hosting, what happens in the background is S3 is going to store your file on a web server. What is a web server? Do you know? Let's use a note maybe, and let's use explain more to understand what's a web server. A web server is a computer that stores and delivers website files to users that visit the website. So that's right, it's like a special kind of computer designed to turn your file into a website that people can visit. So you need to enable static website hosting so that S3 can do that. Put your files onto a special computer to turn it into a website and make it accessible online. I highly recommend checking out this explanation on your own. All you gotta do is highlight this, select it, select ask if you wanna know what's a web server. You can always ask directly like this, or you can click on note. And then ask it to simplify something, explain more, or give some examples. Okay. So now that we know what a web server does, we're gonna stay in our buckets page, but we're gonna choose the properties tab this time. And then we're going to scroll all the way down until you see the static website hosting panel. This is where you're going to choose edit, and you're going to say, hey, guess what? We're going to enable static website hosting because we're going to host a static website, and the index document is going to be called index.html. That's exactly the name of the file that we uploaded into our bucket too. So this looks perfect. We've got static website hosting. Let's turn it on. Let's turn that switch on. We want to host a static website today. And the document that determines what goes inside the file is called index.html. So let's take a screenshot of your setup. Looks good. And once you put out that screenshot, we're going to go and ask, so what does website hosting actually mean? Website hosting means putting our website files on a web server, which is a computer designed to turn the files into a website page that people can visit. To enable website hosting with our S3 bucket, what do? We went into the Properties tab of our bucket, enabled static website hosting, that's all we did, and we also labeled index.html as our index document. i.e., this is the document that we're trying to host. Excellent work, everyone. So index.html is kind of like appointed as our index document. That's the page we're trying to host today. So we're going to go down and select Save Changes. And at the bottom, scroll back down all the way to the bottom. And ta-da! The static website hosting panel looks a little different now, because now we've enabled it. We're hosting a static website, and this is the bucket website endpoint. A bucket website endpoint is just like a regular website URL. It helps people visit your S3 bucket and the files inside as a website. So this kind of ties us back to our quiz earlier. In our quiz earlier, we said, what is the purpose of a bucket website endpoint? And the answer was that it was a URL for people to access the files inside your bucket and to see those files as a website, as a web page. So what do you think? Are you ready to click on it to see what's on the other side? Let's click on it. What are we going to see? What are we going to see? It's an error today. We've got an error, and that's nothing to worry about. I love seeing errors, actually. And I think actually a lot of the Nextcloud community loves seeing errors, because errors means an opportunity for learning. And there's really nothing that we can't fix here. Errors are always leaving behind clues on what went wrong, and you're the detective that's here to figure out how you can solve this little mystery. So what's our mystery today? 403 forbidden says our access is denied. Permission errors are one of the best ones to resolve, because usually it pinpoints to a specific thing that you need to tidy up. In our case, our access is denied to the website files that we've put into our bucket. So why do we get this error? Access is denied. Now, objects are private by default. This default setting helps keep your account's data secure. So the error message you're seeing is telling you that, hey, by the way, your static website is getting hosted on S3. Your files are getting put into a web server and placed and getting ready for turning into a public website. But actually, it turns out the files you're trying to host, they're actually private. And in fact, you can try opening this file yourself. Gangada, thanks for mentioning that in the chat. Try clicking on this link and seeing whether or not you can see the files inside. So you can think about it like this. It's kind of like you have block public access turned off. Remember when we said we're going to take off that invisible barrier? Right now, that invisible barrier is off. People can actually go and visit your bucket. But actually, everything inside that bucket is locked up inside like very, very secure vaults. So we have like two layers of security two layers of access that we need to enable. This invisible barrier is sorted, but the locks, everything inside being private by default, that's not sorted yet. So we need to figure out that second layer of access and privacy. Luckily, it's actually pretty easy to do. We'll take a screenshot of that error message first, and let's keep on going with our project. Now, my tip for taking screenshots is to always just take a screenshot of like the error message itself and less of the entire page. Because the moment it goes into your documentation, it might look like the error message is super small. So try to focus your screenshot on just the error message itself, and even try zooming into your website, like press Command plus or Control plus on your web page to zoom in a little bit and take a clearer screenshot. Okay. Once static website is enabled, S3 produces a bucket endpoint URL, which is a URL that takes you to the website that which is a website that takes you and anyone on the internet to the website that you're hosting. When we first visited the bucket endpoint URL, we saw an error. And that error is called a 403 forbidden error. The reason for this error was that objects in a bucket are public by default, even though we've switched off block all public access. The website files themselves are still completely private. We need to manage their access settings separately. They need to be public files too. For the public to see the contents of our website. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Oh, all right. When we first visited the bucket endpoint URL, we saw a 403 forbidden error. The reason for this error was that objects in a bucket are public by default. Even though we switched off block all public access, that invisible barrier, the website files themselves are still completely private inside. We need to manage their access settings separately. Not only do we need to take off that invisible barrier, but we also need to make sure that the files are publicly accessible too. That way, we can see the contents of our website. So are you ready for the final step of this project today? Ooh, we're gonna make the objects in your S3 bucket public. So we're so close. Let's do this last step, this last missing ingredient. And that is to make the website files inside publicly accessible too. So once that's done, we can all reload the link that I put into the chat and see the website live on the internet. A heads up for anyone that's watching this recording, if you were to try to access the website link that I put into the chat, it might still not work for you at the end of this project because I would have deleted everything by the end of this project. But I would still say you can definitely experience the same thing by doing this project and using your bucket endpoint URL. Okay. So in this step, we will go into the files that we've uploaded into our bucket and make them public too. Because this will enable us to actually view the contents of our website. Once that's done, our website is officially live. Okay, so keep the error message tab open, but we're going to switch back into that Amazon S3 console tab now. Do you still remember how to view your S3 buckets objects? Try finding your buckets objects page, and by yourself, try making your objects public using ACLs. I'm going to take this moment to let you pause the video. Try doing this yourself. We just mentioned that the key to solving this project today is to try and make all of the objects inside the bucket public too. Do you think you can do that by yourself? Okay, now this is for everyone that's here to see the live demo of that step. Again, pause this video if you're ready to try this by yourself. I'm really excited for you to give that a go. Now, when you're ready to check whether you've done it correctly, here's how you can go back to see your buckets objects, and here's how you can make them public using ACLs. Let's scroll all the way back to the top of the page, okay? And head to the Objects tab at the start. Okay, let's click on that. And now you're back to the Objects tab. This is where you can also control the permission settings of your files. So let us select the checkboxes next to your index.html file, as well as the checkbox next to your folder. Have you selected both? Once you selected both, we want to click on Actions. Aha! What is the setting at the end? Make public using ACL. Dun dun dun! This is what we were talking about when we enabled ACLs when we created our bucket. Remember how we said, oh, ACLs aren't the only way to set up permissions. There's also another way called bucket policies, but ACLs are great for individual files. We're back here now. We're using that permission policy system called ACLs to make our objects public. Click on that. And it says, anyone in the world can access the objects. This action applies to all the objects within the folder. So all the files inside the folder are also going to be public. Are you sure you want to do this? And then we're going to say, yeah. Click on Make Public. I'm sure. Is what you're saying. So now S3's like, all right, fine. Now I got the message. I'm going to make everything inside your bucket public. They're no longer private now. So you just got to be doubly sure and aware that not only is invisible barrier down, but everyone can now see all of the files that you've uploaded inside. And we're going to say that's exactly what we want. So we're going to click close here, and we're ready to go back to the web browser tab that had the error 403 forbidden. Again, I'm going to put this link in the chat. What do you see now? What do you see now? Yo, let's click on that refresh. Yo, what is this? What is this? Did I just see a whole website load in front of me by refreshing my tab? Absolutely you did. Look at this amazing website that's now in front of you. So just like that, by making the files inside your website publicly accessible, you've made it possible for people to see a website that you're hosting with S3. Can you see you can see the web page? It's such a magical feeling every time, isn't it? I love it. Now, Gengada has asked a great question. What if we have multiple objects in the S3 bucket? How can we make them public? So if you have multiple objects, just like myself, that was exactly what we did actually. We just, for us, we simply checked the box next to all of the files we wanted to make public, and then we selected Make Public using ACLs. Let me know if you have any other questions about that. Okay, now there's a good chance that you see this page instead. Ooh, nasty. Not what we want. Why do you think you might see this page? Now, this is a bit of a detour. If you've gotten here, awesome stuff. I'm going to answer some great questions with you in a second, but I'm going to take the 5 minutes to talk about this detour that you might see. And I'm going to set up my project in that way. Okay, this is how I'm going to set up my project. Let's say I'm a Windows user, and this is how I uploaded my files. I didn't use this. Oh, okay then. Okay then. Okay, let's say I'm a Windows user, and this was the folder that I uploaded. This is what you're gonna see. So I'm gonna delete these objects so that I can simulate what you might see if you see this error. Okay, and I'm gonna upload the file that's gonna cause the error that you see in this on the right hand side of my screen. Okay, cool. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so again, this is a bit of a detour, but I think it's very, very worthwhile doing this live with you all, just in case you see this in front of you. And this website looks good. I think it looks amazing. And yeah, fun fact about this website actually. I don't know if you see it here. This website is one of the original OG Nextwork designs when we first launched. Completely different vibe to the vibe of the Nextwork projects today, aren't they? We have new logos, we have new colors, a new look, new fonts. We've come very, very far from the first version of Nextwork. But yeah, it's great to be sharing that first version with you through this project. Okay, so I'm gonna see what I can do to make this public using ACLs. Make public. Okay. Now, I'd like everyone to refresh the tab, the link that I sent you. Okay, refresh this link. I wonder if it's still gonna show. You might see this page instead. This does not look great. Why? You're gonna go, yo, this does not look like the one that I see on the demo. This is my page. And this is what you're gonna see if you're uploading the wrong folder. Okay, so I don't know if you noticed, but when I uploaded this folder, look at this. When I uploaded this folder, you click into the folder, and you're gonna see another subfolder inside. Hello? Nah, that's not what we want. You don't want this subfolder at all, team, okay? You don't wanna be clicking into your folder and seeing a subfolder. You wanna be clicking into your folder and see that you have a bunch of image assets, okay, in front of you. So if you see this issue here in front of you, this is how you resolve it. This is how you resolve it. If you click on the folder and you see that subfolder, you delete that parent folder straight away. We don't want that. Select delete. Okay, and delete that parent folder. And what you're gonna do is once that's deleted, is you're gonna click upload again, add files again, but this time from your downloads folder, you see if you have the parent folder, click into it, and just make sure you click into that child folder inside. In fact, what you wanna do actually is click add folder here, click into the folder, and just double check, do you see all of the image assets? Okay, you see all of the image assets? Great. That means you can click upload for the folder. Okay? And then let's select upload. To upload everything again, select upload. And then you'll be able to solve your issue by making sure you make all of your objects public again using ACLs. Now, great work to everyone that is seeing the website up now. Very nice. Can you also see like the slightly not so great look of the website when I uploaded the wrong folder? And we also have Gangada saying, can we also host dynamic websites using S3? That is a spicy question, Gangada, you've asked today. The short answer is yes. And the long answer, Gangada, is that dynamic websites require a lot more than just files in an S3 bucket. You can chuck in some files in an S3 bucket, and those files can reference dynamic elements. So for example, you can reference functions. You can reference things that say, okay, when they click on this file, when they click on this button, I want you to refresh the page and load new posts. That's a dynamic website, because a dynamic website is one where every time you interact with it, you might see something different. It's a dynamic experience. A social media app will be like a dynamic web app, because every time you refresh your social media feed, you're going to see a different list of posts. Every time you go on a YouTube video, YouTube is going to be like a dynamic web app, because every time you click on that video, you can see like a changing list of comments, or like people can reply to the comments. It's like a different Cool. I think I went offline. Cool. I think I went offline for a second there, team, but I'm back. But yeah, that kind of logic needs to be done somewhere else, Gangada. So it's a bit more complicated. In fact, we have a 3-tier architecture website, web app project series that you can check out, where we go through that in detail. All right, team. So we've got our files uploaded now. So if I were to make this public, I should be able to fix the issue that I saw previously. So making public using ACLs, make it public. And then that's your error resolved. Awesome. So if you see this, all I had to do was just make sure I upload the subfolder that's inside. Now I refresh it. There we go. The web page is back. Hey, so good. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. The web page looks amazing. Let's take a screenshot of it. And again, my recommendation is to usually just zoom in a little bit. Okay. Zoom in a little bit so that the screenshot looks huge and it looks beautiful by the time it's in your documentation too. Okay. To resolve the connection error, so this is asking how we solve that 403 forbidden error. So I might actually just say, to resolve this 403 forbidden error, what do we do? We updated the access settings of the files inside our bucket 2. Using ACLs, we made our buckets files public. Once we checked our S3 endpoint, bucket endpoint, we can see a web page all loaded up. Amazing work. Okay, so that is our project finished today. Well done on completing your very first Nextwork and very first cloud project. You should be so proud of yourself. Look at how beautiful that website is. And if you're ready for a little bit extra with me, we've got a secret mission here. So this secret mission is optional. You can choose to go ahead and continue on with deleting your objects today. So you can go ahead and delete your resources. And before you go, make sure to select mission accomplished at the end so that you can see your documentation. That's option 1. But I would highly recommend that we go and do this bucket policies secret mission together. Let's go on ahead. Once you've unlocked that secret mission, we're gonna see how you can use policies to control access to. You know how we use ACLs to make our object public? Let's see what bucket policies can do for us. In this project extension, I'm about to make the objects, I'm about to use bucket policies to control access to our buckets files. So what we're going to do today is stop people from deleting the index.html file. We're doing this so that we can stop people from deleting the objects inside the file. So good. All done. So let's head back into our S3 console like this. And we're going to select the permissions tab. And we're going to select the permissions tab to go down into that bucket policy area. And you see how it's empty? We got no bucket policies at the moment. But we're going to select edit here. And we're going to say, let's add a policy. Now, the policy is something that we've written for you already, so you can simply copy the code and put that in here. But let me explain bucket policies. You know, bucket policies look like a bunch of code. Well, really, a policy is written in JSON, which is a special way to display data. So this policy here is our way to tell our bucket, this is what so-and-so is allowed to do. Or this is what so-and-so is not allowed to do. That's it. That's all a policy is doing. It looks complicated, but it boils down to just that. Who can do what or who cannot do what. In this case, we've got a bucket policy here that controls who can delete objects in S3. We're saying deny. We're saying who cannot delete objects in S3. And principal is the who. And we put a star in there. Do you know what a star means? A star means the deny rule applies to everyone, including you. Everyone, including you, is denied the permission to delete things in your bucket. What's going to happen? If you're curious about what all of this means, these are like metadata for your policy, which basically means, oh, what language version are you using to write this policy? What is the ID for your policy? And then statement is like, what does the policy actually do? This is like metadata that doesn't actually affect what your policy controls. It's more about information about your policy. But this statement is all about what your policy controls. And again, what this policy is controlling is that no one, we're denying everyone, access to the permission to delete objects inside your bucket. So that's what the resource part is saying. The resource part is saying which bucket. Are we denying access to every single bucket in your AWS account, or just one specific bucket? So this is how bucket policies are super powerful. Not only are you controlling whether or not something can be made public or private, you can actually decide using policies who can delete the things inside, who can add new things inside, who can change the objects and update an object. So you can see how bucket policies are actually a bit more advanced in that aspect. While ACLs were very helpful for updating the permissions of individual objects, policies are very powerful in terms of being able to control the different kinds of actions you can do. It's not just about public access anymore. It's about other things, like deleting the object. Okay, so an alternative to ACLs are bucket policies, which are rules that determine who is allowed or not allowed to do something. The benefit of using bucket policies is that you can have even greater control of the access of the actions or of the actions that people are or aren't allowed to do. Well, ACLs, what are ACLs useful for? ACLs are useful for individual access, for controlling individual access, or actually, ACLs are useful for controlling public access to individual objects inside the bucket. Okay, so all done. Still inside your policy window, we're not done with the policy yet, team. We got one more thing to do, or maybe two more things to do. Because in our policy window, this is not exactly the name of your bucket, is it? Is it? It says bucket name. I feel like that's inviting us to actually put our bucket's real name. And we've got object name in here. I feel like that's inviting us to actually put in what object we're trying to protect here. So here is our opportunity to update this policy and make it very personalized to our things. Now, we've already got the template for you here, and look at that. It already says dash the name that you put at the start of this project, so it's super convenient. But what we're wanting to do is copy this and put that in here. Ta-da! So now this is exactly your bucket, Nextwork website project, your name, the name that you put, and then slash, this is the object that we want to protect. Now no one can delete index.html, the specific file. So let's select our changes now, select save changes at the end. Aha, bucket policy created. It's now inside our bucket policy panel. So let's go and check whether or not it works. Scroll back up, select the objects tab, and select your index.html file. What do you think you're gonna see? Can we delete this? Let's select delete. And let's try to delete our index.html file. Type delete here and delete objects like this. Oh, what is this? Yeah, we got an error. It says fail to delete objects. And what's the reason? Your access was denied. How shocking. The access to delete this object, we don't have access to it. It's almost as if there was a policy that's blocking everyone from deleting this file. That is amazing. It just means that your bucket policy is working perfectly. So let's go ahead and take a screenshot of the error that you see, and let's put that in your documentation too. All right. Our bucket policy denies everyone from deleting our index.html file in the bucket. We tested this by trying to delete index.html, and we saw a permission denied error. This means our bucket policy worked. It successfully stopped us from deleting objects. We wanted to protect. Okay, so all done. Let's select close to head back to your objects, to your bucket's object panel. And that bucket policy definitely worked, as you saw. So to finish off the secret mission today, we need to make sure that we delete that bucket policy. Otherwise, we won't be able to delete the actual object and finish up clearing our resources. So let's go back into the permissions tab like this. Scroll all the way down to your bucket policy, and you see that handy delete button? Click that handy delete button, and type delete to delete your policy. Select delete and your policy is gone. Okay, so well done on completing this secret mission, this extra. You've just learned how to stop everyone from deleting a file using bucket policies. That was a lot of fun. Thank you so much. So now that that secret mission is wrapped up, nice work today. You've completed the entire project on hosting your very own static website on Amazon S3. Woohoo! You did it. You did it. That's you. So let's wrap up with a few last questions today, and then let's get access to our documentation and also posting our project on LinkedIn too. Okay, so what do we use in this project today? Services we used were Amazon S3, what else did we use? We could say you also use bucket policies. That's something that you could use. But I would actually write that as a key concept. So key concepts we learned include bucket policies, uploading static website files, index.html, bucket endpoint URLs, and what else did we learn today? We also learned about ACLs and how they control access to our buckets objects. Okay, so now that that's done, how long did it take to complete this project today? This project took us approximately 1.5 hours, including demo time, quiz time, and secret mission time. I bet it will take you maybe 45 minutes or less if you were doing this without demo time or without spending more time on the quiz. But I also feel like even if it took you 1.5 hours, I challenge you to try to do this project again using the some guidance track so that you can see whether or not you can do it in just 15 minutes next time. I think you can. The most challenging part of this project was resolving the 403 forbidden error. It was most rewarding to see our web page load live and be public to the world. Thank you so much for doing this project today. Why did you do this project today? Did the project meet your goals? What could make your learning experience with Nextwork even better? So, we chose to do this project today because it's day 1 of the AWS Beginners Challenge. Let's get started with AWS. Something that could make learning with Nextwork even better. Ooh, what do you think? What could make learning even better with Nextwork? Maybe more secret missions? It'd be fun to try more additional things to make my project even more unique. Maybe that's something you want. All right, all done everyone. So before you go today, make sure to delete your resources, and we challenge yourself to give that a go. It is a huge, huge, huge skill to keep track of things that you've created today and to delete everything after you're done. So I highly recommend that you pause this video today and try to delete everything before playing and just checking whether you've done everything. So pause now when you're ready. Okay, and when you're done pausing and when you're like, okay, I'm ready to check, hello again, you're back. Let's go check whether you've done everything to delete all the objects. So you can also get guidance by clicking on this one. I know, but also I don't know how to delete all the resources. If that's you, here we go. To delete everything that's inside our bucket, switch back to the Objects tab, select everything that's inside your bucket, and we're going to click that handy delete button here and select delete here to confirm, delete the objects, all done. Just like that, that first item on S3 objects ticked off. I think we're now ready to also delete the entire bucket. So let's go ahead, click close, and head back to the buckets page. Can you see this buckets page? Click on that and delete your bucket. So you can find your bucket by name, which is what I did. And once you found your bucket, you can select it, select delete, and delete the entire bucket. Oh, it says my bucket's not empty. If that's the case, select empty bucket and type permanently delete like this to delete everything that's inside your bucket. Select empty. Okay, now you've truly emptied everything now. So you can exit that. Find your bucket again. Select it. Select delete. And delete your beautiful, beautiful bucket. All right, select delete bucket. Off it goes. It's gone. And just like that, you've deleted everything and you've wiped your hands clean of any potential charges in AWS. Congratulations. Now that you have stored all of your learnings inside your documentation too, you don't need to worry about losing everything you've done. It's all stored in your documentation. So make sure to complete this project and see your documentation at the end. In fact, that's what I'm going to do now, so you can see how you can do it. Congrats on completing an AWS project. Let's recap what you've achieved today. You've created a personalized, publicly accessible static website, and you've even made it available for the whole world to see. You've learned all that. Amazing. So select mission accomplished. In fact, I might just refresh my page. And I have this one last task, this one last thing to submit one more time. So I'm gonna, now that I've refreshed my page, let's select mission accomplished. Project complete, amazing. So let's check out the documentation that we've created. I wonder what it's gonna look like. What do you think about this project, everyone? Oh, Plexidus, it's so good to see you. Plexidus says, wow, this project looks familiar. I know, I remember you posted about it when you completed this project before. Well done. Nice to see a new tutorial for it. Thank you. It's beautiful. It sure is. The website is beautiful. So let's download our documentation today. And what you can do first is you can save it to your Nextwork portfolio. And you know what? I might just do that too. So you can click, the theme that you want. Do you want your portfolio, your documentation in dark mode, in fun mode? Let's choose light mode for our portfolio. Save the documentation. Save it, save it, save it, save it, save it, save it. But that's not the only way that you can save your documentation. It's in my portfolio now. In fact, I can open it in a new tab and show you how it looks. But it's also something that you can save as a PDF. So let's click Save as PDF and download our documentation, this time in dark mode, to see it as a PDF. So let's see it as a PDF. And once you save it as a PDF, you can upload that document into your LinkedIn post. Cool, right? So here we go. We've already given you a suggestion, for a post that you could use to share about your project. But you can absolutely update this post and make it your own. So you can say, oh my goodness, I just hosted a static website on S3. in this project, you can absolutely make this your own. And don't forget to tag Nextwork by double clicking on that Nextwork and then selecting us as an option. So this turns into a tag, and when it turns into a tag, we know when you've posted, and then we can shower you with lots of love. So please tag us. We always try to make sure that we see everyone that's posted and give you some support as well on LinkedIn. And now you can click this little X button to take away the preview, because we're going to replace that preview with your own documentation, which is so much better. So choose a file. Let's go ahead and in the downloads folder, upload your file, and you can say host a static website on S3 documentation. All right, looks good, doesn't it? So in the meantime, this is what it looks like in your portfolio. Look at how good the image looks, because I zoomed in a little bit and took like a closer screenshot. This really helps your website just really stand out in your screenshots. And all of the answers that you've written today are now displayed beautifully inside your documentation. Look at that. Static website hosting, bucket endpoints, success, and the bucket policies. Our secret mission is in here too. Oh man, this documentation looks so good. I'm pretty proud of it. I hope you are too, of the documentation that you create. Don't forget to tag us in your LinkedIn post, or you can share it in the Nextwork community too. All right, when you're all done, you can click post right away. And it looks great. If you're worried, by the way, about the quality of this preview in LinkedIn, just know that the quality of the PDF once you posted it is a lot better. It's just that the preview, I think they've like compressed it a little bit, so it looks a little grainy. You just need to click post, and you're gonna see that it actually looks really clear. Okay, and yeah, if you're ready, I would also love to see you show your PDF in the Nextwork community. You can find the link to that over here. Okay. And completing a project really is one of the biggest achievements you can make in the community. So show your work, show us what you've created. Whoa, look at all of this stuff that people have created. This looks amazing. I want to see your posts in here too. So do make sure to come by, share your celebration, what you're celebrating, and it's the fact that you hosted a static website. Amazing work, everyone. Thank you so much for doing this project. You've done an amazing job. If this was your very, very first AWS project, I hope you're very proud of yourself. It's the start of an amazing journey. I'll see you in the next project. In the next project of the Beginner's Challenge, we're going to be creating some visualizations using AWS's visualization service called Amazon QuickSight. So if you're a bit of a data fan, you're going to love that one too. I'll see you then, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye.